Rock and rolling. Hey everyone, The Other Side of Addiction is a podcast that explores various aspects of addiction, potentially focusing on personal stories of recovery, scientific perspectives, societal impacts, and related topics. This podcast often features discussions with experts, individuals in recovery, therapists, and advocates to offer insights and support to those affected by addiction or seeking more information about it. Welcome to another episode of the Other Side of Addiction podcast. I am your host, Al Richards, and today we're going to be talking about cracking the code with our guest, Ryan Skinner. Ryan, thank you so much for being with us today. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. I look forward to it.
And before I forget, I want to say thank you to Rob, right? Rob is the one that connected us. So Rob,
Kelly.
thank you so much, man. I appreciate and love you, brother. It is so cool that so many of my past guests are always sending me new guests. And I love that. It's just amazing.
Rob's a good guy. He's a special guy.
Yes, he is. So Ryan, what the hell do you mean by cracking the code?
It's funny. The name came to me because it was the perfect fit. I always say this. Most guys, for example, addicts, we'll use addicts and alcoholics. Most addicts and alcoholics tend to be successful at what they do for jobs if they stay focused and they're clean. So most of us, if we're successful in life, you could probably get, if you think of these little locks, like the lock I have in the background, the padlock you see, you have to line up the 4 numbers. Most of us can get 2 out of 4 any day. If we're in a really good zone, we might get that third one some days, when things are going your way. And hell, you might even have the once a year or twice a year, you hit that 4th number, just firing on all cylinders, whether it's business, relationships. But very rarely can we get all 4 consistently and 3 out of 4 almost every day. And what I learned was, I learned a lot of principles, calm the steps, calm laws of gravity, whatever you want to call it. I learned a lot of things being in recovery that applied to everything and that I never realized years before. I was in finance at a young age. I had some success. But when I started taking these spiritual principles, these spiritual laws, and applying them to my profession, it took me into that 4th, they talk about the 5th dimension, right? It took me into that 4th number. I was hitting it more often. What I used to hit every 6 months, I was hitting monthly or now even weekly. And I said, geez, what we need to do is put together a process that helps men and women, but I coach men, helps men to really get to that fourth digit, or at least 3 out of 4, 6 out of 7 days, and the 4th, maybe 1 out of those 6. And maybe there's still one bad day a week because you're human. But the goal is to tip the scales to the positive way more than the negative. And you can have success in anything, business, relationships, you name it. It's a simple process.
Yeah, and you're just not talking addiction, right? Because even in recovery, I have learned so much from our guests, our past guests that have been on the show, because what they've learned in their journey of recovery is stuff that we can use in everyday life, right? Because it really does affect us all.
Oh, absolutely. I always say the 12 steps is a playbook for life. Imagine a normal person who doesn't have all the issues that we have as addicts, alcoholics, getting this playbook. You'd have somebody who is a superstar. Imagine where they'd be, like a Michael Jordan, if he had this. It'd be insane, because it enhances you so much. It allows you to tap into something greater.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. And talking about problems with our life, I just did a show last night, and we really got into mindset and our healing journey. That's what our discussion was yesterday. And so many of us are searching for our why. And also there's a lot of us that really aren't searching for our why because we seem to be comfortable right where we're at, right? Which that's okay if that's for them. For me, it's not, because I think that gives us that area to be that stagnant water that sits there outside and finally starts stinking and getting black,
Yeah.
and the flies and the mosquitoes are coming around, right? It's okay
Yeah.
just sitting there, and if we're comfortable with it, then okay. However, you said something that I was reading on your website, and it talked about how we all have a unique purpose. And that really struck me really deep when I read that, because we do. Every single one. God put us on this earth for a purpose. And sometimes we have to go through a lot of, I'm just going to put it out there, a lot of effing bullshit to get us to that purpose, right? Before we open our eyes and realize it. And for me, losing my job of 24 years, 14 years ago, and going through the battle that I went through, being on the other side of my wife's addiction, put me exactly where I'm at. And she's the one coming home from a studio one day where she saw one of my shows for the very, very first time, which before then she was telling me she didn't want me to do it because she thought I was just talking shit about her, right? She said, I think you found your why. And I started thinking about it and I went, holy shit, she's right. Now here I am coming up on 3 years doing this. So it took me all the way into my 50s before I actually found my why, but I had to go through that journey to find that.
What's funny you say that. So I always say, your why is. I always say, what's your it? Everybody has an it. In fact, on our shirt, it has the logo here, cracking the code, but on the sleeve it says, "What's your it?"
I love
And
it.
because everybody, we do have this purpose, we have this reason we're here. For me, the why is the thing that drives me when I don't want to do things. My daughter is 4 and she has autism. She's my why. Like when I don't want to get out of bed or I don't, or I want to coast and I want to say, well, I've made a couple bucks. I'm okay for money for right now. Or I can do this. I want to take time off or I want to do something for myself. I think, what's my why? My why is this girl has to have a better life than she could ever imagine when I'm gone. So that if she can't give it to herself, and hopefully she can, she's progressing nicely. But if she can't, she'll be okay. And that's my why. And then, and obviously spend time, quality time. I have a stepdaughter also, and I like to, I really want to enjoy them while they're young because I know they grow fast. But the why is what drives me. My it is my purpose, I believe. For me, my it is really being of service to other people. And that might sound really cliche, especially when people are in recovery. Everybody says that. But what I mean is like, I'm in financial services. Most guys that manage the amount of money I manage make 5, 10 times what I make. We charge ridiculously low cost for clients. So we don't basically most of our clients we work off what the company's pay us. We keep it at no cost, not low cost. So that's one thing. My personal life, like the coaching, I have some clients that pay me an inordinate amount of money because they're in the financial service industry and they come to me and they're making 300-400 grand a year and they say, Ryan, I want to make bring in $1 million for my company. Can you help me? And I say, absolutely, because I know how to take what people are doing, how to basically take that process, implement it, and scale their business while adding in spiritual principles. So then it's stronger, and then it's not you working alone. God's right there by your side, and you can call God, higher universe, spirit,
Yeah.
whatever you want to call it. I just say God because I grew up around that word. But there's something out there that when you learn how to tap into it, and that's when I think you're really working with your it. When no matter what you're doing, that you're not doing it alone. You feel some sort of greater purpose, and I get like all humans, you can get away from it. There are times where you start thinking, I have an award thing coming out next month that I'm going to speak at, and they're like, "Wow, that's great." And I'm thinking, "Yeah, I really crushed it. I agree." And then I realized, whoa, this isn't about me. It's about we. This is
Yeah.
God walking this path with me, helping me do this, help me to be able to be part of charities, not just about Ryan, right? But my natural proclivity is like most addicts and alcoholics, you go back to either me or poor me or something. But it's you can get real selfish, but when you're not, and that's when you're in your it, when you're not thinking about yourself.
Yeah. And people in long-term recovery figured that out sometime somewhere along their journey, right? I mean, I've had guests come on that said their new high is basically giving their time to other individuals. That
Absolutely.
that's their new drug, right? Because it makes them feel so good. And every single one of them also said this. I'm there doing my best to help them, but in reality, they're helping me.
Oh, that's a
And
fact.
that's exactly how it goes.
That's a when I learned how important it was for me, I started a program and I started working with guys in prisons. I'd go volunteer a couple hours a week and just to help them out and help them where they want to. Sometimes I teach a course on business development because a lot of them make criminal records and they need to find a way to make money after. And I said, listen, I've been here, I got through it, and I came out the other side, and I own a business. You'll be all right. And I showed them how. Other times we talk about spiritual things regarding recovery or whatever. But I knew when I walked into that jail, one, I walked in there, I was fire. I was just a different guy. And when I walked out of there, I felt amazing. And I said, even on days I was too busy for work to get up there and all that stuff, I still made myself go. And then when I walked out of there, I was a different Ryan. So right then and there, I knew there was something to it. So I said, wow, imagine like all these other people, by the way, excuse me, I have a cold still. I've
Oh,
got
no
a
worries, no
cold for like
worries.
6 days. But all these other guys in my industry will call me up and asking, they're like, Ryan, how are you doing the numbers you do? I mean, you were a heroin addict, you went to jail, you were a bottom of the barrel junkie, and now you're always in the top 2 or 3 in the whole industry. How are you doing it? Nobody wants to hear it, like a spiritual principle. Everybody wants you to give them a silver bullet. But once I realized that, like, hey, I was at my best when I was volunteering at the jail. I love coaching, but I can't spend my whole life in a jail. One, mentally, it would drain me. Two, financially, I'd be broke. But I have guys always asking me, why don't I start doing some coaching in my business? And then it kind of spiraled to why don't I coach other people in sales or other guys going through midlife crisis? Before I knew it, I was sitting there and my phone was right off the hook and I was just being a service to people. And I get guys that pay ridiculous money to me because they need a lot and they're at a level they want to get to a big level. I also have a guy call me. He's like, I can't really afford you, but I want to save up and hire you next year. And I said, no. The first year's on me. Let's make you some money, and then you can keep me. Um, it's not really about dollars and cents. It's about what you just said about that feeling of being of purpose, like that rush.
Yeah. And holy crap. Ryan, you just said something that really hit me because I've had some other people reach out to me, and I've got some people that I work with as far as coaching, and I love them. They're amazing, amazing people, and I've had others who want to train me, right, to help me excel with what I'm doing, and it's a large chunk of money, and I just don't have it, and I always get that, well, you don't I guess you don't want to put anything into your own personal life and to make your life, but yeah, it's great. You know what, I could go get a loan. Yeah, I probably could, but then there's another monthly payment that I don't have that monthly payment to pay back, even though it's self-improvement. With what you said that you're going, because I've even asked, if you're so if you are so damn right saying that you can help me make better money than I'm making, and you guarantee it, then why don't you get me there and I'll give you some of my money back that I'm making, right? To pay you back. And for
Yeah.
you to open up your heart, man, that says a lot about you. I mean, seriously, it does. And I just wanted to throw that out there because and there are, again, other people that I'm working with who are doing the same thing, right? They're like, Al, hey, we understand your situation. Let us help you get to a certain level, right? Because that will help you get started.
Yeah.
You don't know how much that means to somebody like myself. It means the
I've
world
been
to me.
there. So I've been on both sides of the coin. You know, you got to remember the reason I learned how to do this coaching stuff was it was a guy who got me when I was when I was at the bottom of the barrel. When I was in jail, this guy called my mother to see how she was doing. He didn't even know my mother. I go, you're going to call some old Irish lady and ask her how she's doing while she cries? He goes, yeah, I am. He goes, that's what we do. You'll understand someday. And I will tell you, when I got into the coaching thing, I didn't get into it for the money. I make good money on my other practice. It's not about, I mean, obviously I want to make enough that I can run it, but I didn't chase the money because the money was already there for me. This was the first time in a long time I've been able to make a choice just where my heart was. So I said, all right, I'm going to do this. So yeah, there's one guy right now I'm coaching at no cost. There's another guy who I coached and I did so I said, listen, I can coach you. What are you trying to get to? I want to do 250 next year of revenue for the firm. I said, what did you do last year? 105. How about the year before? 103. So his average growth rate was 3%. So I said, here's what we're going to do. The first year, that 105 you're at right now, we're going to add 5% onto that. Assume you do another 5 next year. And that's all you free and clear. But for everything over that 105, I want 20% of everything you bring in. And I said, if you want to do it, we did it. And we had success. But at the end of the year, what happened was he says to me, Ryan, that was great. He goes, I'm excited. We made 280 that year. That was the revenue. He said, but Ryan, I'm cutting you a check for like 28 grand. Doesn't that seem like a lot? I go, you son of a bitch. You had no clue when I was doing it on the cuff. Um, and then after I got my check, he said, well, I think I want to stay on. I didn't really think about it, but I said, no, we're done doing business here. I said, I
Yeah,
did charity work, basically. I could have wasted my time because not only did I have to hope that it worked for him, I had to hope he applied everything I taught him. I was the one
yeah,
with all the risk. He had no risk. And but I'll tell you, I love it. And I guess maybe if I was getting into it as a full-time job and I need the income off it, I'm doing it and I'm gonna start doing some speaking things around companies that have sales forces and a lot of conferences for my industry. Because it's a good story. There's a guy who was, in the top 1% of his industry, becomes a drug addict after surgery, becomes a heroin addict, he's out in the streets, goes to jail. Then he becomes in the top 0.0001%. And so I will tell you the process works so well that I would probably have about a 94, 95% success ratio because I won't take on people I don't know can get there. If you come to me and you made 158 practice last year and you want to do 600 next year, I'm going to say, that's great. I want that for you too, but that's not what we're setting for a goal. So I set reasonable goals. I make sure they're accountable. And it's accountable as shit, to be very honest with you. If you stop missing a call with me or Zoom, like a Zoom with me, you get cut loose. I don't care. I don't need that. I tell people, like, I recently cut a guy loose. I said, I don't need your money. I value business, but I don't need it. And if you're not going to show up, you're showing up late, and it just tells me you don't value it. In fact, that's something I was taught by Rob before. If it's not important enough for you to show up on time, then probably not that important to you.
yeah, yeah. Absolutely. It's almost like being a sponsor, right? I mean,
Yeah.
basically it is. It's being a sponsor because you have to hold that person accountable. Because if they're not gonna hold themselves accountable, then they're not gonna go anywhere, you know?
Yeah, and I've had that with people that worked for me and stuff like that too. Like people that wander in at 9:08, 9:14, 9:12, and this will start at 9. Like, you could tell a lot about somebody how they do the little things.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you can tell a lot about their integrity,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, you really can. So, you're saying when you help somebody, and I wanna go into this just a little bit. I'm I'm big into spirituality, okay? You know, coming from Utah, the majority of, well, it used to be, not all of us are, it's not 80% LDS anymore. It's actually down to about, I think, about 40 or 45 because of all the
Okay.
people that have been moving here
So
to
a
the
lot.
state. And I'm not active, and there are certain things that I believe, but I don't believe too much on the religion part. And again, that's just my version of it. All right. I'm not knocking anyone who does, because
Good.
if that's what works for them, that's all that matters, right? It doesn't matter what I value. Spirituality takes you so far, so far. And I remember hitting my knees for the first time when I lost my job. I hadn't hit my knees probably the last time I was probably 13. And now here I am 40, 45. 45, 46. And I remember it took me a couple days or so, even probably a couple weeks to do it because I was embarrassed to hit my knees to talk to somebody we can't see, right? But who we know is there, at least for me, I know is there. And it is God for me as well. But learning the stuff that I've learned and the books that I've read and the people that I've worked with as far as coaching, that spirituality, that's huge. And that's amazing. I love that you add that in with it. It's just not all business, right? You've got to have something greater than you to get you to the next level. Is that why you added that in?
My belief is this. I know that up to my own devices, I don't do well. I don't make good decisions. I'm not as kind, respectful, humble. I'm just not who I'm meant to be. When I was in jail, I was viciously craving opioids. I mean, I was, detoxing, 26 days, no sleep. I was a mess. And a big friend of mine was in there, a kid I grew up with, not really a friend, an acquaintance. And he said to me, Rye, go in my cell and hit your knees and pray to God and ask him to remove your obsession to drink and drug. I said, yeah, what do you think? I haven't asked God for help on this before. He said, well, then go do it now. I said, no, I'm not doing it. I've done it a million times. He goes, you're going to do it one way or the other now. He was huge. I'm a big guy. He was huge. So his name was Sean. And Sean goes, listen, Ryan, go ahead in. I'll stand at the edge of the cell. Just go pray next to my bed. So I did. And I did for about 6 days. And maybe it was day 5, 6, 7. But at one point, I no longer wanted to shoot heroin. I was like, whoa. So then I tried it with my probation officer. He said, pray for people you don't like. So I prayed that I could kill him and get away with it. Then I prayed I could kill him and his family would have missed him. Then I prayed that he would die in his sleep. I didn't have to kill him. Then I prayed that he wouldn't die. He'd go away and he'd have a good life, but we didn't have to come in contact. He was my guest on my podcast 3 weeks ago. He's one of my closer friends now. The
Wow.
chief of police, one of my best friends now, the chief of probation. All of these guys are good personal friends. All people that I had to pray for because I didn't like. The chief of police is not true, but the rest of them, so I learned the power of prayer. And I used to think, well, you can't pray for business, then it makes you selfish or greedy. And what happened was, when I first got sober, the guy who helped me get sober, the guy who had called my mom, he said to me, Ryan, I want you to read this book. He gave me I was reading all kinds of spiritual books at the time. When I was in jail, my mother had a deal. She'd send me one gangster book, but then I had to read a spiritual book. And she'd read it too, so she could question me, make sure I read it. Then she sent me another gangster book. First thing she sent me was Brothers Bulger, about Whitey Bulger and his brother and how they ran Massachusetts corrupt. Then it was Fail it, Fear, and Do It Anyways by Susan Jaffers, a breast cancer survivor. Then she was going to order me another tough guy book. And she said, what book do you want? And I gave her a list of 2 books. They were books that this lady, Susan, had recommended in her book. Just these spiritual. From that point on, I just never read a tough guy book again. And I realized the value of all this. So when I got out, Billy had recommended Power of Positive Thinking, Norman Peale, very common book.
Yeah.
So I used to go up to this beach up in Gloucester, a town up here in Massachusetts, and I'd read and just a little at a time. I had learning disabilities, so it took me a while to read, but I'd just go every couple of days and I had nothing else going. And I'm driving home one day and it talks about making God your business partner. And then I look up at the stop sign, it has this name on it. And bottom line is I then named my business with that tied into it. And I knew right then and there God was my business partner. And I pray to God before every time I give a workshop or a seminar, I say, God, please allow me to be a service to these clients while growing our business. I'm not gonna pretend I don't want the business to grow, but I want them to be the right people, the right way, help me to use products that are in their best interest, not mine. And I've gone through a lot of ups and downs since getting back into business because with my history, like certain people held resentment, certain people in the state that have power have really given me a hard time, even though I've proven time and time again not to do anything wrong. I've had to overcome like that stigmatism, and it's been a real like it's been hard, but with God as my business partner, I walk through everything. I come out the other side. I don't know. So I have to bring it into it or it or whatever you want to say, because I can't take any of the credit for this. I just can't.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you on that too, because it's definitely, I haven't gotten to where I'm at because of me. I really haven't.
Exactly right.
It's been because of a higher power leading me. One of my buddies, Nicholas T. Smith, and I've said this on many shows. I was interviewing him once, and he said, connect the dots backwards. And he got that from Steve Jobs,
Yeah,
right?
that's yeah,
Steve
but
Jobs
stand for your
mentioned that.
commencement.
And I really started thinking about it. And I started connecting the dots backwards. And I'm like, holy crap. Everything that I went through led me to be exactly where I'm at right now. We just don't see it, right? Until we do connect those dots backwards. And matter of fact, I ran into Nick this morning at the gym, and we talked about that. We talked about how the hell did we survive? How the hell did we make it through some of this? And you go back, and I still to this day sometimes scratch my head going, how did this happen? Because it didn't come from me, but it still happened somehow, some way. So yeah, I think adding that into a business aspect is huge. Good on you for doing that.
Yeah, I mean, I just think there's no other way.
Yeah, yeah. So, you're talking about impacting other people's lives. And what I know now, that that helps our lives so much. I've heard in the recovery community a lot, the opposite of addiction is connection.
Yeah.
And making connections with people, building these relationships. And I don't know, maybe people are telling you this with what you're going through with the divorce, and I was going through here with my divorce, and people are saying, hey, take this time to figure out who you are, and take this time to do this. Well, I've been doing this for 14 years, right? And there's been times when I've been by myself and still been married, right? Because she was either in rehab for 3 months or 6 months, and I'm working on myself. And what I have found for me, people have told me, Al, you don't need a woman in your life to make yourself happy. And I understand what they're saying, right? I get it, right? However, if it makes me happy to have somebody in my life, that's what makes me happy. And also helping others with something. Man, I tell you what, that puts me on such a freaking high. I mean, literally it does. You just said here about this lady's book who battled breast cancer. I'm doing a fundraiser tomorrow for a lady friend of mine who's been diagnosed with breast cancer. And she goes in for surgery on the 8th of January to have the cancer removed. And they believe they've caught everything in time, and she has it in both breasts, right? So I can't imagine how scared she is, right? Even though she's doing her best to stay positive and motivated, and it's tiny and they caught it soon enough.
Still
If
scary.
if I was diagnosed with testicle cancer, I'd be going probably through that same thing, right? I'd be doing everything I can to stay upbeat, but yet it's always in your mind. To be able to impact other people's lives, man, I tell you what, that puts me on such a freaking high, Ryan. I am so excited for tomorrow. Our goal was to raise about 2,000, and I think we've already got about $1,600 already for her. And we haven't even done the raffle yet, right? So to me, I think and this is my version. We're doing Jesus's work here in my eyes, right? We're out there taking our lessons, what we've learned, our hard knocks, and we're helping other people through whatever they're going through, because we all need someone, right? We need that higher power, most definitely, number one thing. But we also need people here that we can see, right? People that we can touch, people we can hug, because again, my version of it is, man, it just impacts us so much, and it impacts the whole world because of that positive vibe going out.
Well, yeah, I think one thing that comes to mind is I heard a guy speak once, and he said each of us needs all of us. It's so true. After we get off, do me a favor, text me her first name. Every night I pray for 5 new people by a candle. So just shoot me that after.
Okay.
On a lot of this stuff about giving, to whom much is given, much is expected. I'm not a big Bible thumper. I don't know a whole lot out of the Bible, but what I do know, I have because I can apply it. I'm not one of those people who can tell you 50 pages of it, but I'll tell you about 10 quotes. I'll tell you exactly how I use them every day in my life. And that's a big one. To whom much is given, much is expected. My mom used to say, and I finish my prayers like a lot of my friends will pray and they'll say, I ask this in the name of Jesus Christ. I ask this, blah, blah, blah. I end every prayer the same way. God, I know you didn't carry me this far to drop me on my head. Because that's what my mother would always tell me when I was at the bottom. And you know something? I believe that wholeheartedly. He did not carry me through what I went through, did not get me through the other side of that, did not get me financially where I am today for it to be about Ryan or just to leave me high and dry. Like there's a purpose for me. For my purpose, I knew it was coaching. I got this call and I would volunteer and do it at the jail, and I just found it. I loved it. And so when I started doing it, I was taking time away from my business. And even the places that pay to go speak, they're not paying you what I make in my practice. So I have to fly somewhere and take a day off. They're not gonna write me a check for 50, 60 grand.
Yeah.
But what they do is it allows me to do my it. And we all have that it, and it's that's why you feel so good when you're doing it. That's how you know you're doing your it. I really believe that. When I'm in a client meeting, it's a client that I belong helping, and I know I can help them. Even my financial services, and I'm helping them build a retirement plan. Yeah, I'm getting paid, but I'm so involved that I care about what's best for them and this product and that, and just being a service. And I know I can tell you the grandkids' names. You know what? That is like I'm in that flow state. That's that fourth number is just clicking when I'm coaching a guy and I'm sitting there helping him and I'm giving him a piece of advice, and then he's coming back the next week, or it's Friday, Monday, or Tuesday, we have another Zoom, and he's on. He's like, "That worked. I just had this new client come on, and they hugged me after, and boom, I know that's my it." I also know when I'm not in my it. When I'm meeting with a client the other day, client is 6 million, and they're like, "Yeah, we want to do this, and we're going to give you half to try it out, and then if it goes well next year." And I'm like, yeah, honestly, it just doesn't feel right because we don't charge as much. So I can't work for a lower fee than this guy's getting, considering I'm better at what I do. So then I got to charge you the same fee. They're like, yeah, we're fine with that. I'm like, yeah, but I'm not fine with it. It just doesn't feel right. Now it was a good sized case, but it didn't feel right. And if I took it on, I said to the kid that works under me, if we took it on, I'd be living with that every day. And I know it's not right. And that's the thing. When you're in your eight, that fourth number comes, maybe not every day, but it's flowing. It's just natural. Boom.
Yeah.
But when you're not and you're just trying to force things, or when you're not tapped into that source, God, spirit of the universe, whatever you want to call it, if you're not dialed into that, you're swimming upstream. And I'm telling you, man, I'm a somewhat strong guy, but I'm not gonna be able to swim upstream all day, every day. I was able to stop using drugs and alcohol when Ryan stopped trying to fight drugs and alcohol and just said, you know what, God, just take this from me. I can't do it.
Yeah. And so many of us are fighting that, right? So many of us are fighting our life. I
Yeah.
I did it for years, right? I mean,
Yeah, I do.
I think I told you when we spoke earlier, I battled an 8-year weekend cocaine and alcohol every Friday and Saturday night, man. That was my release, right? Sunday I'd clean up. I did good all through the week till Friday came. It was back to the same old thing. And until I was in the depth of my wife's addiction is when all the red flags started flying. And that's when I started realizing I couldn't control anything. All the choices that I was making, pretty much all the choices I was making. Plus, back then I was a liar and a manipulator because I was going to do everything I could to get Al's way, right? It was all about
Yeah,
Al.
I
All
get
about Al. Man, if it wasn't going my way, I'd figure out a way to make sure it was going my way. When you are able to drop that and leave that, and what is that song by Carrie Underwood? Jesus, take the wheel and just let
yeah.
the steering be done by him. Life goes a heck of a lot better. Now, is there still going to be obstacles in the road? Well, absolutely there's going to be, right? Because that's life. That's life. That's we're supposed to hit these obstacles. But however, how it helps us to get through what we need to get through and how it changes us, it's just definitely amazing. And you're talking about that fourth code clicking in place, right? And sometimes it's just somebody walking into your life unexpectedly, just at a grocery store or at the gym or somewhere that adds that fourth code to click right in place.
Oh yeah, God works for people. I mean, that's a
Yeah.
fact. I see God every day, and it's not that he's coming out of out of the universe. It's just that sometimes it's just a smile. I mean, I got a text yesterday from a woman from AA who sent me a message. Hey, I haven't seen a meeting lately. I know it's a holidays. Hope you having things going well. Now I've just been going to different meetings because I was working different hours. But I sit there and text back like, you have no idea how happy that made me. She goes, yeah. She goes, I just hadn't seen your smiling face in a while, and I said it's nice to know that because we aren't good friends, me and this lady at all. Like we're somewhat acquaintances. She's probably 20 years older than me. We know each other because I was trying to get her to nanny for my daughter because I just feel that strongly about what a good person she is.
Yeah.
Uh, and she works at a daycare for kids, and but it turns out she does that on the side already with some other family. But it was just so nice, and I thought to myself, like, people don't realize that's why I try to make sure I reach out to 3 people every day. And sometimes there are people I don't even want to reach out to, the truth. Sometimes there's one guy who talks about how he never feels like he's on the inside of the groups in AA, the men, the clicky groups. And so, I try to put a text out, hey, how you doing, bud? Hope you're having a good day. I want to see him. You don't feel like you're in the inside because you're not going to put a little extra effort in. To get on the inside of some of the crews I run with in recovery, like you have to put the effort in. We already have our crew. If you want to, we'll put a hand out to somebody new and say, hey, how you doing? But if you've been around meetings as long as we have, but you're not social with us, we're going to assume you don't want to go golfing or something.
Yeah.
Um, so when I reach out to I reached out to that guy, even though I didn't really want to, I try to do things that go against what I want to do, to be very honest. I'd like to go home after work early, work out, lay on the couch, watch TV when my daughter wakes from her nap, bounce around my stomach, play around with her, blah, blah, like all stuff that's like enjoyable, fun, happy. Very rarely do I want to go home, change a few light bulbs. My ex is still living with me. So like, have a conversation with her and like all that. Just, I just don't,
Yeah.
you know, but I do it. And, like for Christmas, I went out and bought her gift cards. I just felt like saying this person's got more than their share of financial support out of me, and it's time to ease off. And my lawyer said the same thing. And then I thought to myself, you know what? At the end of the day, if I go and drop $500,000 worth of gift cards for her, I won't feel much of a squeeze financially, but it would probably make her day. She's the mother of my kid, and I did it. And this is the best Christmas we've had in years.
That's
Al, can
cool.
you do me a huge favor?
Yeah.
Can I rent a restroom really quick? I'll be
Oh,
back.
absolutely. Yeah, you
Thanks.
bet, man.
All
Yeah.
right.
I don't
One
want
sec.
you to sit there being uncomfortable.
Now it's starting to wiggle around.
Yeah, so to our listeners, I love having guests on our show that talk about stuff like this: spirituality, motivation, mindset, healing journeys, just like our show last night. It helps us in so many ways. A lot of our guests that we've had on they haven't battled any type of addiction. However, something woke them up where they decided that they wanted to make a change in their life. And I really do believe that all of us need to make a change in our life instead of staying stagnant. I did say earlier, if that is for you, then okay, if that works for you. However, stagnant, like I said, it brings in a lot of nasty smell, a lot of insects. We've got to be able to move forward and grow because that's what we're here to do. And move forward. It doesn't matter how big the step is. It can be something just tiny. As long as we're moving forward, we've got to make that step. We cannot continue to go backwards. And I know people that I know in my life, they're continuously going backwards. They're continuously falling in the past. And I can see how it's taken over their health, how it's taken over their mind. And they're just so stuck in it and so stuck in their ways, and they're miserable. That's why they complain all the time, because they are completely miserable. Why do we want to be miserable, man? We don't have a lot of time on this earth. We think we do, we don't. I may not even be here an hour from now. I may not even be here tomorrow. I don't know. What I do know is I want to continue to work on myself. I want to continue to meet amazing people, have amazing guests on this show. I want to continue to learn on how to make myself a better person, because I've made a lot of mistakes in my life, and I will continue to make mistakes in my life. I got to learn the lesson. I got to see the lesson, got to see the message in the mirror. And I got to figure out what I need to do to correct that, because I am also, my version of it is that until we figure it out, we will continue to go through it. And I know this by experience. I continue to go through the same BS that my life has gone through for 8 years. And it's because I wasn't learning the lesson. And once I did, things started changing. So keep watching our show. We've got some more amazing guests coming up, and I'm just doing some babbling here while our guest is running to the restroom because, yeah, we don't want him to have an accident during the show. Anyway, I get that feeling, man. There's sometimes I've been sitting here during our show, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, I got to get this thing done so I can run to the restroom. And if any of our listeners have any ideas about some shows, man, please reach out to me. Get on Facebook on Messenger and reach out to me. Let me know if there's something that interests you, and or if you're even interested in coming on the show and talking about a certain subject or somebody that you know, as long as it's positive, right? Because even though this is the other side of addiction, there's all types of addiction out there. I mean, I know people who are addicted to the gym. I know people who are addicted to eating. I just spoke to a gentleman 2 nights ago who spent time in prison because of a porn addiction. And there's only one way that that's going to happen. And I think you guys can figure that out. And he was grateful for actually going to prison because they could have took him down a pretty bad road, pretty dark road. So if you guys know of someone or have something, please get with me so we can share it, because I would love to have someone come on the show and share whatever that's on their mind. Ryan, welcome back. Now, I've just been sitting here talking to myself and speaking to the listeners about positive thinking and wanting to move forward and paying attention to the lessons and how we're all battling some type of addiction. We all have them, right? We all have one or another or multiple. And sometimes we may not think it's so bad, but an addiction is addiction. The brain works the exact same way. What, and I don't know, I don't think we've gone through this here, just here in the last little bit of the show. What lessons have you figured out that you have learned through your whole battle that's now helping you share that with other people that you work with?
One thing I learned was a quote by Gandhi that really is, it's actually, we have it on my cards. I send handwritten notes to my clients. And it says, the best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. I'm telling you, man, like when I started trying to be of service to other people, whether it's professionally, people in my family, the guy down the street who's a neighbor, next thing I knew, I found myself really happy and having a purpose. When I look for a purpose, a lot of people want to find their purpose or find their in. If you're looking for it, you're not gonna find it that way. You got to get out of yourself and be of service. Join a church, join a softball league, join something where you can be around other people, and then try to. There's always somebody who needs a ride or somebody who needs somebody to talk to over a cup of coffee. When you start doing those things, slowly, like you get these little God shots, and then you got to pray for the open mindedness and willingness. Because once I started understanding that life's about community, it's not about what I drive or what girl's on my arm or what I'm wearing, and it's really about like interaction with other people. That's all it comes down to. I've got a bunch of clients. I deal with retirement planning. That's all I do. So I deal with a lot of people at the end of their life. Nobody ever says, right, I wish I had this new Rolex that just came out, or I wish, and listen, I have nice watches. I like that stuff. Or I wish I had another Ferrari in my garage. Nobody. Some people say, I wish I had more time with my grandkids. I wish I, had done this. I wish I was a better to my ex. For example, people ask, like, why are you letting your ex drive around in a nice car your company's paying for still? She hasn't exactly been kind to you. My answer is, it's not about her, it's about me. And for me, I treat her as the mother of my kids. Not the way I want to treat her, because the way I want to treat her is not very respectful and nice. But because my natural, I'm a human being. I still have tendencies and resentments, but I try to treat her as like God would want me to treat the mother of my daughter. And when I do that, so I really believe that one lesson I've learned over and over again is it's about interactions, not just interaction with people you want to interact with, but how do you treat people? My mom would always say, what's really important defines who you are. I think it was my mom and my grandfather. Would be how you treat people that can do nothing for you. It was my mom, actually. And it's true. She said some of that in my mentor. I had said another piece, so I tied it together. Like, how do you treat somebody who would do absolutely nothing for you? Like I think about like when I do thoughtful things for the housekeeping at the office. My mom was a housekeeper when I was a day and she cleaned office buildings at night. And those people clean in my office. So even when I do nice things for them, it's how do you treat somebody who can do zero for you? You come across them, you might never come across them again. There's never going to be any kind of payback. Like, how do you treat them? Are you treating them like you would Jesus? Like that homeless person on the street? Are you treating that person like he's Jesus? Or you treat him like, hey, he's a homeless guy and I see him all the time, I'll throw a couple bucks and like what, and when I start acting that way and I start really focusing on how I treat people, I find myself, again, I don't know why, but I find myself feeling really good inside, like I got treated well.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm glad that you brought that up, Ryan. Just to be vulnerable here. I had an issue where um my ex showed up. She wasn't in her right mind, kind of put the two and two together.
Yeah.
And I got very upset. I said a lot of mean things, a lot of mean things. And I've done my best to work hard on not allowing that to happen. And I've lived through it so much. It's just like it just triggers that trigger point, man. It's a hair trigger, right? Doesn't matter how hard I try to keep my finger away, man. It just pulls it and I explode. And I started thinking about it the next day. And by the end of that day, I had to reach out and apologize because she's human. No one, no one deserves to be treated the way that I treated her, right? It doesn't matter because basically it was my feelings. I was choosing my feelings, not looking at her perspective, and I was losing my temper because of it. When I could have made a different choice, just like she could have made a different choice, right? So I ended up having to apologize to say, look, I was completely wrong. You didn't deserve to be treated that way. You're a human. You made your mistake. I just made my mistake. Can we move past this now? And I'm hoping with me, to me, feeling it helped me because I feel like, okay, I'm man enough to step up to the plate and
Yeah,
go,
that's big time
I
stuff.
I effed up. I effed up. I'm gonna do my best to correct it.
That's the difference between somebody who's like my buddy Armin always says, an AA man or an NA man or whatever you want to call it. But when you live like that kind of man or woman for women, then you treat people a certain way. Like I try to be an AA man. Like there are definitely things right now that I'm tolerating people. I'm being extra good to. Same in situation. And I don't want to, and I don't think the person deserves it. I think I'm going against everything I really believe, but I'm doing it because I believe that's what I'm supposed to do. And whether, it's like the Jesus thing, let me slap the cheek and slap the other cheek. I don't always agree with that. I think somebody slaps you in the cheek, you should break their jaw.
Yeah,
But my personal belief got me into a lot of problems. When I live the way God would want me to live, I feel a peace around it. Just like you, you're not wired to treat somebody unkind, no matter what she did or deserved or did deserve. It's not who you are. Maybe when you were drinking and drugging, but that guy, the next day, you could have gone 2 more days that way. You would have gone out of your mind. We do it for us as much as them. We do it for them because that's the right thing to do. But when we do it for them, we get this relief, this feeling like, you know what? Like, yeah, you know what? I made a mistake, but I owned it. And that's big stuff. Like none of us are trying to be, I don't want to be a perfect person. That would take the interesting part out of life. But I do want to be a good enough guy that when I'm wrong, I can look at somebody and say, you know something, I didn't handle this right. You deserve to be treated better. What can I do to make this right?
yeah,
Uh, and that means the world to somebody. I guarantee your ex was probably like, oh my God, thank God. 'Cause she's probably ashamed anyways. You know what I mean? She had her side of the street. She probably felt so uncomfortable. And when you own that, it probably took a lot off her. Like, hey, you know what? He doesn't expect perfection.
yeah, yeah, definitely. So, Ryan, couple questions I always ask here right around the end of the show. What would you want our listeners to gain from this episode, and what would be your main message through all this?
Couple of messages, couple of thoughts. One, that each of us needs all of us. None of us walk this path alone. And if you try to walk this path alone, even if you're in recovery, you try to stay sober and clean, it's a lonely goddamn journey. But the value of having in recovery, we have sponsors. I always tell people the guys that hire me, I'm their kind of their life sponsor, their business sponsor. I help them to find success and whatever success is for them. Because remember, success, if you're measuring success by dollars and cents, boy, you missed the mark. You know what I mean? It's not about dollars and cents. It's about, obviously you want to have a good income, but it's, do I spend time with people I love? Am I giving to charities? Do I believe in a charity? Is it something personal to me? Do I have a connection to God or something higher? So it should be about 4 or 5 things that define success for a person, and each person might have different 4 or 5. So my job is, I tell people, to help them to define what success is for them, and then to help them implement a process and discipline to get to that. It's a process, just like, when you're recovering, it's a 12-step process. It's probably about a 9-step process when you want to have success. But if you do that process, everybody gets the same results. Everyone gets success. Same thing when you're in recovery. If you do the steps, it works the same for everybody. It doesn't discriminate. So I would say a couple of things people need to understand is success has to be defined. Once you define it, everybody can achieve success. Everybody. So when people say, well, yeah, but you don't understand, Ryan, you have this, and this. Yeah, okay, I'm 6'1". Okay, so that's something I can't change. But I could be sloppy or out of shape, right? I could sleep in every day and not work out in the morning. I could eat crappy because I love candy and sugar. I could go, fall off the deep end. It takes a lot. I put a process in place. So the guy who I've recently started working with, we have a process from the second he rolls out of bed, opens his eyes, his prayer, his working out, drinking water, meditation, journal, the work, boom, boom. We have such a process, and he can't get over his life having success. It works for everybody. So that's one of the biggest messages is everybody can have success. Am I going to go be a pro basketball player? No. So I can't have like outrageous things. Am I going to be a Navy SEAL? I'd love to be one, but I'm not going to be one. At 44 years old, they're not going to put me in the SEALs, no matter how good shape I'm in, because compared to a 20-year-old SEAL, I'm like an old man. Like, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? But the success that God had for me. So it's about identifying your success, having a mentor or coach or whoever you want to call it to walk you through that path and hold you accountable. So those are the biggest things. And another thing is I tell people, show yourself love. Don't go easy on yourself. I don't believe in that, but be kind to yourself. Set goals. Make sure you have somebody there to hold you accountable and make sure you're trying to work towards those goals. And if you work towards those goals and you have a slip or a fall off, maybe fall off a day of work, if something goes wrong, that's okay. Just get right back at it. But again, have somebody there so they know if you're falling off or if you're slacking. And just make sure you have a purpose greater than yourself. I always say you have to have your it and you better have a why. Because it doesn't matter how big your it is, if you don't have a why, anything that matters that drives you, then, you have grandkids, so I don't have to say much more to you. You understand a why.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have 2 daughters, but your real why comes when you have grandkids. Your why when you have kids is more of a drive because you have to provide. The grandkids is more of a love drive. It's just pure love. But everybody has it, and you got to have. So for me, those are the big things.
I love it. That's some really good message right there. Yeah, I love every single bit of that. And it is good to have someone to hold you accountable. And I'm looking for someone right now to do that for me, right? To hold myself accountable. Because I got myself put in a corner for a little bit. And over a week ago, I finally pulled myself back out of that corner, right? And I allowed myself to go through that time. I allowed my feelings to go through the feelings. I finally slapped myself in the face and go, okay, enough's enough. However, I believe if I would had somebody there, I could have got out of that a lot sooner,
But
right?
I think it's important to go through it, though. I do. I
Yeah,
think it's important.
absolutely.
Like when I have guys
Yeah,
that I'm coaching and they go through stuff, and they're like, "Well, and this, that." I know I got to just suck it up. I'm like, "No, no, no. Honor your feelings. Give yourself space for it. You have to have space for it, or else it's going to come up like whack-a-mole later on in life."
yeah,
But again, but while going through it, you can still hold yourself, you might loosen up. Like when I had a guy go through a divorce recently, guy I'm mentoring, and he said to me, "Brian, I'm going through this divorce. I can't get out of bed." I said, "No, you might choose not to get out of bed, but you can." I said, "But we got to lighten up. You're not going to work out an hour every morning. You're not going to do this much prayer. We're going to get out of bed. We're going to do just a quick prayer. Maybe today it's just God help me. Get out to the gym, walk on a treadmill 20 minutes, a moderate walk." I said, "I just want you moving." I said, "In fact, you know what? Do the walking outside. Get some cold air in your lungs." So we did that. After that, he said, "What would you do?" I said, "Journaling, meditation. If you can." He said, "I'm having a hard time meditating." I said, "No problem. Hop in a freezing cold shower. I want you to stand there for 30 seconds. I want you to really rub your whole head under there, take your shower. You can wash as fast as you want, but you already did the walk outside. So wash yourself, but do freezing cold. And when you get out, call me." And he's like, "I'm all charged up." I said, "I told you, I knew it would work. It doesn't mean you're not gonna feel these feelings. It doesn't mean we're not gonna do a weighted workout and this and that. We're not gonna kill ourselves." He said, "Well, what the rest of his day at night?" He said, "What do I do for dinner? I do my usual salad chicken." I said, "No, what do you want? Pizza, sub?" He's like, "Really?" And I said, "Yeah, you got to be kind to yourself. You just don't want to fall out of the routine of working out and stuff, because falling out of a routine of something that makes you feel powerful and empowering and good versus just going easy on it, 2 different ball games."
Oh
And
yeah,
I think you gotta honor your feelings. By I know what you're saying, and going through, even if you would get out of it at the same time. Like I went through something once, and I had a guy coach me, and nothing would have changed except by having him there. I had a guy call him and say, "Listen, man, I'm going through it." And he said, "Yeah, I went through this when I first started getting divorced." It was just that he could relate. Just that the power of that somebody could relate to me, the connection. I don't know, man. That the bond there, I don't know. There's no better bond than two people trying to help each other come together for a therapy
Amen.
movement. It's just
Yep, I agree.
the
Amen to
money
that.
comes. I'm a big believer in like, most of the guys that I've helped out, they couldn't afford to pay me or paid me like dog shit, right? I can tell you this, I probably made more off them than any other client because they referred me people. Because what a powerful example. Hey, this guy did it for me and he wouldn't take money because he said I couldn't afford him, but I needed help. So he like that comes back around, man. Like,
Yeah,
I don't know.
it does. It definitely does. Ryan, thank you so much for taking time. And I know you're not feeling too good. You got that cold. And again, just thank you. You could have backed out, and it says a lot about you and your integrity. Thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your thoughts, your lessons, your knowledge, things that you've gone through. Because I guarantee it, if you think you're the only one going through it, you're not. We're all going through something, right? And to hear other people's stories, it really helps a lot of us. So thank you again.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having me on. This was great.
Absolutely. Guys, thank you to all our listeners, all our past guests, guys. We couldn't do this without you. You guys are the ones that's making this possible. All I do is have a platform. You guys are the one that's making it a success. So thank you so much. And we're going to leave you with this as we do at the end of every show. Remember, addiction is giving up everything for one thing, and recovery is giving up one thing for everything. We're out.